This video is a quick aside because something just happened. I totally have to share it with you guys. But I just want to start by saying that Aaron and I both really appreciate all of the letters that we get in the mail that people send us, good and bad. It means a lot to us that anyone takes the time to do that. Somebody for Christmas, by the way, just sent this really, really beautiful King James. We have several versions of the Bible already, but somebody took the time to send this to us, and it really is one of the prettiest Bibles I think I've ever seen. It has beautiful pictures in it, and they wrote a lovely note and a card, and it was so nice of you, and I feel like a jerk because I have not written you back to say thank you for that. I haven't written anybody back. I haven't checked any of my messages. I haven't updated my website. I barely leave the house. I haven't even washed my laundry in 2 weeks right now, which is really bad for me because I have to do it every week, and I'm about to run out of underwear, but I've been editing. That's the thing. I'm just trying to finish this movie. My whole life is finishing this movie, and I'm doing it in shifts now, the way that doctors who are first learning to be doctors, they take these crazy shifts where they don't sleep, and I haven't had very much sleep right now, so I probably sound like that, but I just want to say thank you. It means a lot to me. And now to the whole point of this video. I get these letters from people like this one I got from Sarah, who took the time on Valentine's Day, actually, to write a note to me and put a stamp on it and put it in the mail. And it makes me feel all warm and squishy inside because I just think that's such a nice thing to do, just to take the time, to do that. And she said, "You nailed it on the DeLong piece. It's a government front joke. Wow, thanks for that." Thank you, Sarah, for taking the time to write me. That's really nice of you, and I really appreciate it. But on the same day that you sent me that, Sarah, somebody else decided to send me this anonymously. So it's just drop shipped to me. It's not Amazon or anything like that. There's no way to say who sent this at all, but it's unacknowledged, an expose of the world's greatest secret. We're not alone. We never were. Alien lights or whatever that's supposed to be. And it's the DVD and the book also to go with it by Stephen M. Greer. Okay, so I just want to say to start out that whoever did send this to me, I really hope you didn't spend a lot of money on it, because I really don't like anyone to give money to people who are also taking money from the Rockefellers, which is what Stephen Greer's doing.
Isn't Stephen Greer Rockefeller funded?
And this is the thing with the disclosure movement. This is the whole problem I have with the entire thing. It is not a natural movement like all of these movements that we see today. They're all ham-fisted and paid for, and that's what the disclosure movement is too.
Hey, are your ideas for global takeover falling apart? Are you losing sleep over humanity's mass awakening? Is false flag terrorism fizzling out?
It's a big open secret with them, but it's been pushed by the Rockefeller Initiative since the 90s when Stephen Greer met with Lawrence Rockefeller.
War, famine, and GM food not getting it done either?
Who is considered the father of the disclosure movement, Lawrence Rockefeller. He met with him right before Lawrence Rockefeller met with Hillary Clinton about all this stuff. And this whole thing is part of the larger New World Order, one world government agenda. That's what it all goes back to.
Well, don't give up. Get disclosure. You'll be able to unite mankind with a phony problem and enslave them with one world government and taxes.
And the disclosure movement, it's like this open secret with them. They try to act like it's not funded by the Rockefellers. And then when it comes out that, oh, yes, it is, and they have to admit it, which they do, they admit it.
When I put these briefings together, Lawrence Rockefeller hosted the Clintons at his ranch. One of the old Rockefeller guys. And he wanted the truth out, but his brother David Rockefeller, Chase Manhattan Bank, doesn't. And Lawrence was the philosopher of the family. He went to Princeton with McDonald, old man McDonald of McDonnell Douglas Aerospace. And Lawrence really did want to get this fixed, but he got surrounded by people from the CIA that took all of his money and flushed it down the toilet.
but then they play it off and say, well, Lawrence Rockefeller was the good Rockefeller. He was the philanthropic black sheep of the family Rockefeller. That's all not even true, okay? That's like going down to hell and hanging out with a bunch of demons and being like, well, this demon over here is not really as bad as all these other demons, so that one's okay. No, they're all demons and it's all bad and you're in hell. And that's basically what it's like to take money from a Rockefeller, if that makes any sense at all, what I just said. But I cannot trust Stephen Greer. I cannot trust anything he has to say because I know where his money comes from, or where at least it started, and it was started with the Rockefellers. And everything that they have done for the entire 20th century has to do with a New World Order, one world government agenda. And disclosure is part of that.
Yes, disclosure, your one-stop shop for full spectrum dominance. But wait, there's more. Sign up for Disclosure today and you'll get problem, reaction, solution absolutely free. That's right.
The whole alien thing is part of that. You have people like Kissinger, Ronald Reagan.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
And Lawrence Rockefeller is not the black sheep of anything. It's been, all you have to do is research him for 5 minutes. And we did a whole cheesy X-Files parody, which I don't even think that many people watched back in the day.
The involvement of any Rockefeller always signals something, well, more hidden about the agenda.
Do you know how much Lawrence Rockefeller sucks? The other Rockefellers hated him. They named him after a girl.
Explaining all of this, the point is that guy has always been wrapped up in this agenda just as much as his brothers were for the entire time. He's not special or different or the good one or any of that. That is all untrue. It simply isn't true, okay?
Lawrence really did want to get this fixed, but he got surrounded by people from the CIA that took all of his money and flushed it down the toilet.
And I'm sorry, but it's not really the world's greatest secret when every other 5 minutes you've got a new History Channel Ancient Aliens thing coming out and another news story about some...
Good morning, everyone. Residents in Harrisburg are still trying to figure out exactly what those flashing lights are. Aliens? We're not alone.
UFO sightings in Manitoba are soaring.
On an infamous top-secret UFO file. Take a close look at this picture. The American astronaut is living on the International Space Station, tweeting out some pictures of what some people say may be UFOs rather.
The truth is out there.
Aliens?
Pentagon budget that got exposed because they're funneling millions of dollars into some alien thing that sounds like total BS.
Pentagon spokesman, in fact, told CNN the program was shuttered because there were, quote, other higher priority issues that merited funding.
It's definitely crazy to spend $22 million to research UFOs.
I mean, come on, okay? None of these people have ever had anything but an agenda. And it's one big one. That's the thing that I've realized through all the research that we have done. It's one gigantic agenda that encompasses everything. It encompasses Agenda 21. It encompasses all of the United Nations stuff. I mean, everything that has happened in the entire 20th century, all of the big elite foundations coming together, Carnegie and Ford and Rockefeller, all of that stuff, the Fed, World War I, World War II, League of Nations, United Nations. The League of Nations, by the way, guys, never disappeared. There's proof that they were working right up until World War II, and they had a meeting and they were talking about how what kind of world do we want to build after World War II is over, and then they just rolled it all up into United Nations. League of Nations never actually went away. It was always there since World War I. They were never going to let that go. This is all part of it, and this is the last card.
Introduced to the late Dr. Werner von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. There are many enemies, he said, against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system. The first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists.
My fellow Americans.
My fellow Americans.
My fellow citizens.
My fellow Americans.
At 7 o'clock this evening, Eastern Time.
That's 2 hours ago.
Today,
At this hour.
Tonight I want to speak to you about what the United States will do with our friends and allies.
American and coalition forces.
Our armed forces joined our NATO
Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait.
as in airstrikes against Serbian forces.
Are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people.
To degrade and ultimately destroy the terrorist group known as ISIL.
My fellow Americans, on Tuesday, Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad launched a horrible chemical weapons attack. Even beautiful babies were cruelly murdered. Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria.
And to defend the world from grave danger.
Then there would be third world countries.
We're going to build the wall. We have no choice.
Then there would be asteroids.
Seems the folks at NASA are worried about a giant asteroid bringing about humanity's end and have unveiled plans for what to do about it.
And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.
You're gonna make us go to the United Nations, aren't you?
Scolder, the land for the United Nations building was donated by the Rockefeller family.
How do you expect to get in? It's a restricted area. There's no trespassing and photography is prohibited.
With our FBI badges.
Aliens? And it's been outed as such. If Stephen Greer wants to tell you the real world's greatest secret, it would have to do with that agenda. It would have to do with why is Lawrence Rockefeller pushing disclosure when he's also the guy who was meeting back in the day. They did that whole Rockefeller Brothers Fund thing about the role that America was going to play in creating the new world order that they wanted. And they openly say that in their report. And when Lawrence Rockefeller was working on that, he was working on a panel directly under Henry Kissinger, okay?
I have no question that the president will insist, as he has said publicly, on a full disclosure of the facts. But when that is accomplished and the human tragedies are completed, the country will go on.
Okay, so he is not the good one. He's not the good Rockefeller that's the cuddly one you want to snuggle up to and kiss on the cheek. Okay, he's also just as dirty and just as involved in this stuff as the whole rest of his entire family. And David Rockefeller was like 101. He looked like he had the blood of 1,000 babies brimming in his eyes by the time he died. And probably every year of his life was spent just with this agenda that they were working on. I mean, that's all they did. You know, the reason I guess I just went off on DeLong so hard is because it's just extra insulting because he's like the punk rock guy who's he's going to run a company that's basically a CIA front for who even knows what. Brain interface technologies and telepathy sounds like MK Ultra 3.0 to me. So thanks a lot, Tom DeLong, and thanks a lot, Stephen Greer. You're just taking paychecks from people who have an agenda that your particular topic just happens to be perfect for.
Is it about what your message was?
Because
what your idea was that made them want to tell you some top secret shit that they've tried to keep away from the American people?
Well,
when you take a guy who's like a big celebrity who's in a huge rock band like you, and you just say, hey, meet me in an airport. I'm going to tell you about a life form that we found during the Cold War because you're famous or because you know things?
No, because I have a service. So
whatever, okay? All these people insult our intelligence. They insult everyone's intelligence with this stuff. And it's one of those conspiracies, like I said in the last video, it's perfect. It's perfect to get people to fight amongst themselves and chase a bunch of crap down a rabbit hole that you'll never find the end of because it's ultimately you cannot prove or disprove it either way. I feel like this is just turning into a rant that almost makes absolutely no sense, and there are people who've explained this much more eloquently than I just did. I'm just very tired. It just thought it was funny because Sarah, exactly.
Disclosure! Our surveys show that 9 out of 10 world leaders prefer it. Aliens may or may not be real. Your home may be at risk from those possible aliens. No major credit cards accepted because there is only one currency under a one world government. Prepare to die screaming, probably. Disclosure is compatible with Project Bluebeam. Do not employ critical thinking.
What bugs me so much is the first time I saw Stephen Greer, I saw one of his videos, somebody sent it to me. I have an open mind. Like, people send me stuff, I go and I check it out, you know. And I turned it on, and the guy started talking, and within 30 seconds I went, wow, this is something very disingenuous about this guy. Do not trust him at all. Why don't I trust him? Let me go see if there's a reason why I should not trust him. And I turned off the video, and I went and looked into him for more than 5 minutes together, and it was pretty quick to find out who helped him get his start with this. It's not exactly a secret when they're trying to push it in your face every other 5 seconds that it's a secret.
UFOs rather. Aliens?
You know what I'm saying? It's a little heavy-handed, it's a little over the top, it's a little ham-fisted, and it's totally funded by people no one should trust. Okay, now I'm just repeating myself over and over. I love you guys very much. I read all of your mail, I promise. I will get back to people when this movie is done. And I think Stephen Greer is full of crap.
The truth is out there.
So right across from the United Nations, there's this quote. Man's search for peace. And it begins with, man is destroying himself, his soulless body plunging into the abyss. But man cannot escape the all-seeing eye of the Almighty, which penetrates the darkness of his despair. So I guess that means we need world government. And also, interestingly, down here on this corner, where it says 1 UN Plaza, and then right behind that there's an NYPD thing, that's where the State Department office is. And we were just standing there filming this for a couple of minutes, drew the ire of security guards and several cops just to be on a public street filming in America. It's insane.